You are live, Underground Remix Live, your number one radio source for live rhythm and news, classics and current events, music and information, jams and thoughts, which sometimes require a little participation and improvisation during our live jam sessions, broadcasted from right here at the station. I'm your master of ceremony, Sherrod. Make sure to click that link, subscribe, like, comment, save, share, all of that good stuff. You are live. The name Underground Remix Live. That is the original name. I bring that up because in a recent thing that I wrote, I said turning lemons to lemonade, something. That's what we do, or something like that. And then I said, well, limes, because they're alkaline. That, turning life's lemons, just what it says, into lemonade. Creating something out of nothing. And what is today's date? Today's date is June 30th. So it is still Men's Health Awareness Month or Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Once again, whichever one it is, they go hand in hand. Same thing. Today is Tuesday. Just wanted to close and wrap up a particular chapter and transition into a brand new season. The chapter that I'm closing is this Crash Out Chronicles a live report that I've been doing. Salute YouTube. I'm making sure that I show love to YouTube because a lot of times I'm focused right here on IG, but I see the engagement like on YouTube. So peace and love to y'all. Salute, salute, salute. So yeah, I just feel like for the love that I did get and for the concern that was shown recently during my Crash Out Chronicles live report, I brought in the intro the way that I did to really say, in reflection, I said, boom, self-check, boom, like a self-acknowledgement. Creating through the storm as an artist, there are a few moving pieces that once you step back from them and you see, just like, what is God doing? Now, let me just step back and just sort of like see, how am I flowing with God's flow? How am I, working against the flow? Where is the alignment? Where is the resistance? And I'll just share what I share. Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, Underground Remix Live. I don't know what it looked like, but I was asking an essential question the entire time. I said, where can a black man go? Basically, as a safe space where you're not a problem or a threat. Some feedback that I got from my recent lives were, you sound like you think that you sound crazy. You sound, I just got feedback. And then at one point, a particular, set of feedback, it was in me to say, almost stop and say, like, is that what you think? Like, is that how you interpret this? So I want to take a moment and say, I am not suicidal. I love God. Um, and what I did was really not dress up a crisis, not dress up, you know, for social media, anything. It was exactly what it looked like. And it was like alive from the center, ground zero of a crisis that might help the next person one day who does not have, that same information on hand to survive. And I also intentionally and was aware that it was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm already an artist. I'm already like, we called it broadcasting back in the day. Now y'all call it podcasting. But radio is like in me. Like that's foundational. I do that without a salary, without a budget. Like that's URLive radio, URLive podcast. Now it's files, but now we're live. So first off, when I stepped back, I was like, you are operating in capacity. That's always been your goal. That's always been your dream. Of course, the goal is to survive off of it, live off of it. There are other times in life where I can appreciate allowing the art to just be in a pure place and not have the pressure of survival on it. But with survival and with hustle and with focus, boom, boom, bam, bam. So self-check and acknowledgement of just commitment and consistency to the bigger picture and dream and execution. There is so much to unpack, but we're here. We're what? 7-8 minutes into the stream, and if this is my purpose, this is what I do. What? Okay, we could set a goal, 1 hour mark. We can get a lot done in an hour. And if I'm at work, let me put this right here. Oh, this is good because it puts things in perspective. I'm gonna put right here the $ URLive Podcast. At any point that you feel inspired, URLive Podcast is the Cash App. That is how you can bless this production. Not a handout. It's not a handout. It's not no gift to no homeless. It is, you know what? In this world of subscriptions and paid content creator, content, all of that. I like this message. I want to support. I want that to be the foundation. And that's how you could do that. You can also find all of those links in my bio. Whoosh. There's so many things, so let's consolidate and choose. I've already chosen a focus, but where do we start? What's up, YouTube? I see y'all. What's up, YouTube? I have some vocabulary words that I read in a previous live stream that I want to run back right quick. Those words are bastard, Dr. Umar Johnson, Leon Eisenberg, ADHD, neurodivergent, autism, and then the next set of words, I said these would trip you out. Enmeshment, emotional incest, codependency, latchkey kid, um, detachment, dissociation, dissociative identity disorder, um, yeah, and I feel like something is missing, but that's still a good start. At some point, just crossing paths with these vocabulary words, just hearing the word, I realize I don't even have to spend too much time on them. Just throwing these words at you and giving you a moment to see how they might apply to your life or someone's life close to you. So that's boom. That's like a bam. That's a bullet point. That's an area right there to talk about. That second set of words are words that were personal to me as a root to what I feel like a root to my anger, my frustration. Mental health awareness month. Expressing yourself, letting it out. When I went live on my crisis, Ground Zero, I pretty much showed from my perspective, or at least how and why I feel the way that I feel, which is there is no real help. You help yourself. Where do you really go? That is a place that is between you and God. A safe space is a space that you create. And for many people, that's home. And for many people, home is not the same for everyone. Salute, salute. Thanks for tuning in. We got IG in the building. We have YouTube and IG in the building. So let's get started with the very first word. Bastard. What is a bastard? What a way to start the day. Bastard. Bastard definition. Of course, boom, the word bastard primarily functions as a vulgar insult today, but it historically referred to a person born to unmarried parents. Its exact application depends heavily on the context, which falls into three main categories. Modern vulgar insult in everyday slang is a derogatory term for an unpleasant, cruel, or dishonest person. The guy who stole my bike is a total bastard, is the example that they gave. But historically, the term denoted an illegitimate child, someone born outside of a lawful wedlock. Modern law and society consider the usage archaic and highly offensive. Preferred terms like child born out of wedlock or non-marital child instead. He was the bastard son of a duke. Non-genuine or inferior is the third example. As an adjective, it could describe the style of architecture. Bastard. Absent father. I wrote down Dr. Umar Johnson because of his remix and translation of ADHD to Ain't No Daddy at Home disorder, which essentially he's saying that the problem is bastard. We have grown to embrace bastardism, azation, utopia, bastard utopia, culture, baby mama, um, single mother, and then we could look at it like that, or we can say that was also a systemic design through the public programs and the war drafts and removal of the father for benefits and stuff like that. Like we can, all of that, just throwing foundational stuff out there, just boom, 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 bam. Let's move on. ADHD, that's Dr. Umar's interpretation of, we need to actually go in and look at what is ADHD. But whatever it is, the creator of it, Dr. Leon Eisenberg, look it up for yourself, admitted on his deathbed that it is a fictitious disease that he created and designed for pharmaceutical profit and gain. And when I stumble, it's like disease, disorder, disorder, and some other stuff. That's another word. I'll have to get back to it. But I was wondering, defiance. Disease, disorder, defiance. What is a disease? What is a disorder? And what is just defiance? But let me go ahead and let's get exactly what is ADHD to begin with. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, a common neurodevelopmental disorder that affects how the brain manages executive functions, focus, and emotional regulation. It's primarily characterized by ongoing patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity that interfere with daily functioning, work, or school. While typically diagnosed in childhood, ADHD is a lifelong condition that persists into adulthood for many individuals. The three main presentations: people with ADHD experience varying combinations of symptoms, which usually fall into one of three categories. Predominantly inattentive, so they have trouble organizing or finishing tasks, paying attention to details, or following conversations and instructions. Predominantly hyperactive, impulsive, fidgeting, excessive talking, inability to sit still, acting without thinking, interrupting others, or difficulty waiting. Combined type, a mix of both inattentive, so boom, a combination. Common symptoms: difficulty maintaining focus on tasks that aren't highly stimulating, frequent daydreaming or appearing not to listen when spoken to, struggling with time management, prioritizing and meeting deadlines, losing or misplacing essential items, keys, wallet, paperwork, extreme restlessness or inability to relax quietly. Diagnosis and treatment. ADHD is not caused by laziness or lack of intelligence. Rather, it relates to differences in brain development and chemical activity. It is highly manageable. Treatment plans typically involve a combination of behavioral therapy, where learning coping mechanisms, organizational skills, and strategies to manage emotions in daily routines, and then medication. Stimulant or non-stimulant medications prescribed to help regulate neurotransmitters in the brain and improve focus. Why am I bringing this up? Several reasons. One, wanting, researching clarity to start on what it is. Then from that point, looking at it from both the lens of Leon Eisenberg, Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson, ain't no daddy home disorder, bastard, absent father, or just illegitimate born out of wedlock. Leon Eisenberg calling this a fictitious disorder or disease and saying, whole time, y'all, that's cap. There's a whole world that exists around the identity of this. And then you read it and you're like, y'all consider that ADHD? Well, who doesn't have that? Or who's not going to have that, even if they aren't any of that in a time of emergency or distress? Like, who's not? Are there people who never lose their keys at all? Y'all don't lose shit? So, I mean, but I get it. I guess if something is chronic to where it really... I guess I was trying to find my space in between that. Being open-minded to people's real experiences, and then also giving space to the Matrix to really be the Matrix, which is acknowledging cap where it's applicable. You know, like, what do I mean by that? If dude clearly told you it's for the pharmaceutical business and that the medicine, but they're prescribing for it. I mean, does that not draw your attention to, like, well, for pharmaceutical profit and gain? Well, who's it just makes me, it's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. All right. So that's ADHD. What is neurodivergence? Let's just keep going with the definitions. I feel like this is a mature, this is an intentional, earnest step to really take a moment and gather myself before I go on with all of my thoughts. I have my stance, current one, on a few things. But let me continue reading. What exactly is neurodivergent? It describes people whose brain processes, learn, and experience the world differently than the standard societal norm. It is an umbrella term rather than a medical diagnosis, embracing the concept of neurodiversity, the natural variation in human cognitive function. While neurotypical refers to individuals who develop and process information in ways society considers the standard, neurodivergent individuals possess unique combinations and strengths and challenges. The term encompasses a wide range of neurological and developmental variations. The most commonly associated include autism spectrum disorder, ASD, which is differences in social communication, sensory processing, and behavioral patterns, ADHD, and then learning disabilities like dyslexia and dyscalculia. I hope I pronounced that right. And other variations are conditions like Tourette syndrome and dyspraxia and synesthesia. Synesthesia, I have experience with. I have foundational knowledge on that. Synesthesia is like cross communications, cross sensory communication. I think a great example would be Pharrell talking about the sound of colors, and he acknowledged it in Stevie Wonder, who, you know, clearly is blind, but he can do his thing musically, and the connection that he makes with his chords and the colors of those chords, or the impact of that vibration and frequency. I had a few activities that I used to do with my students with synesthesia. So we looked up ADHD, we looked up neurodivergent, and we talked about Dr. Umar Johnson and Leon Eisenberg. Now we're moving on to the juice. The juice would be a set of words that I found were a root to my anger. And why am I talking about these? We're talking about these because of Men's Health Awareness Month. Hooey. Okay. Why am I so angry? I am angry and then why am I happy? I want to focus on the positive too. Finding the light, and I think that's what today is about, is finding the light. Hi, how are you? You Clockman. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Trinity Noir. Salute. We went over a lot of foundational information. The juice. Y'all ready? Do y'all ready? Now I see why certain speakers. Hello, Angelica Hernandez. Thank you for tuning in. You are live. You are really live, like for real. And y'all are always welcome to request to join. I would love the engagement, to join the chat, join the conversation, find out your experience, your feedback. I'm operating in capacity and I'm operating in purpose right now. If you would like to support the URLive Podcast, you can do so through the Cash App. That is it. Just add a $ right there in front of it and you'll see me. It's not a handout. It is support for the production. Now, I already went over these. It is more so my connection, my message. I watched my own live streams back recently from the Crash Out Chronicles. And I sort of like took down the lights, the positives that I saw in it. First things first was I was expressing, I was flowing, completely flowing, and that's the hard part, getting started. And a lot of times not starting and procrastination comes from waiting on perfection. Perfection is not always promised. Everything isn't going to always be organized. I also want to bring up spiritual warfare, unfortunately. Perspective. Some people, including self-reflection on my journey. Hello, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know how to pronounce that. Brigante. But salute and thank you and welcome. Spiritual warfare, spiritual attacks. I know this may seem scattered, but I'm throwing a lot out there and we're going to reel it all back in. Okay. Time is 9:50 Pacific Standard Time, so it's almost 10 o'clock here. That means East Coast. Y'all are well into your afternoon. So maybe I can catch some of y'all on your lunch break. The guilt that I had to free myself from recently in the middle of a crisis. That's crazy to be thinking about anybody other than yourself. To sit there and to have to go through all of those thoughts. Was a I'm gonna give you a great example. I can give you a couple of examples. So there's the movie Space Jam, which I'm gonna sum up real quick. I watched on the plane just for fun. I watched just for fun Space Jam. Not this trip, but like probably a trip or two prior. On the plane, Space Jam. I was like, I ain't seen that in a minute. I think we went to the movies to go see that. And what was Space Jam about? Essentially, these NBA players who clearly they're in the NBA, so they're at the top of their league, and they lost their superpowers. They lost their skill, and essentially their essence, their talent. Basketball. And then they realize that their essence, their oil, had been siphoned. I was like, by the end of the movie, when they all touched the ball, the glowing basketball, and they got their superpowers back, he was like, is that not, what in the